Good evening and welcome to the Posthumous Poetry Series Part 18. It was a very pretty day today here in Pittsburgh. The sun was out. We haven't seen the sun in a couple centuries, it seems. It was warm and it was nice to be out. Ate a lot of Indian food, that kind of stuff. Today is also Van Gogh's birthday, and happy birthday, Vinnie Van. You know, I have spent, I should say, a lot of time thinking about Van Gogh, and I spent a lot of time with his paintings, and the Rijksmuseum, and the Van Gogh Museum, and the Kriller-Muller Museum, and Scaife Museum here in Pittsburgh, even. And now, if he could have just hung on a little longer, and if he could have just been a little calmer, he could have lived to see the fruition of his accomplishments. But he was an Aries, and Aries don't do that. They're all big bangs, just walking around, you know. They begin strong, but they don't end well. Tomorrow is also Easter. I always like Easter, that idea of Easter, Jesus rising from the dead. Although one of my previous poems, Cosmology, we talked about, they say that originally in the Gospels, they say that the women left the tomb and told nobody anything, which I thought was interesting. So this poem is kind of a remembrance of an Easter. At the time I wrote this poem, we were in kind of a spiritually crepuscular kind of place in our lives, and on top of that, I got the message that my good friend Rita Griffin died, and Rita was a dear friend of mine. She died of hepatitis C, and those days they really didn't know what it was, like they do now, just like they didn't know what HPV was really when our daughter had it. And Rita was great. Rita was a friend of mine that I met in college. And there was a group of us. There was 4 of us. We all lived in the same apartment building, and we got to be friends. And then through different permutations of time, we all either lived together or had friendships together, as roommates or as dear friends. And Rita was there for my senior year especially, and she was kind of my she was my LSD buddy. And her and my friend Larry and I, we were the 3 of us, and every Saturday we would do LSD for I don't know how many weeks, 20, 30 weeks, something like that straight. And she was great, yeah. And we kept in touch even after college. I would fly up to see her and Terry up in New England, and even Larry would come up, and we would all hang out and stuff, so. She was a good kid. The title of this poem comes from, there was a television show called Death by Chocolate. I don't know if we remember this or not. And one day he was making a recipe, and the quote comes from that part. He was making this recipe, this chocolate creation. It required you to make little chocolate cookies, and then he was a little dissertation on that. I want to wish everybody a happy Easter. This poem's a poem that kind of takes on a life of its own, and it has its own kind of collage world where it just goes off on its own and does its own thing, and that's fine by me. If you say You mean I have to make little chocolate cookies for this recipe? May I suggest you go to your room and think what the world would be like without chocolate? For Rita Griffin. I believe it's not because they don't want to see the world. For that, they could have just closed their eyes. They don't want the world to watch them. Our heads adrift in linen. At first, it was for lack that we took to ore. Now we have data and nada. Friends, the more vestigial our orbit. Hepatitis C, HPV, what we didn't know under a scree of LSD. Old timers who work at the horseshoe casinos say they didn't even close when Binion died. When Kennedy died, people sat crying, pulling slot machines. One of my best Easters, sunrise on the shore at Revere. Because we assumed we would see each other, it was not the last time. So was ist los? The day seemed as out of place as a dadaist at the University of Pittsburgh. Bee-eaters and some kind of go-devil, Rogerine with not a wad of potpourri, the demiurge or the demi-vierge, heliotropic, unkaput. Who is that goat-footed man? I like the cut of his jib. The worst new dish of 1993, fried trout air bladder and sea urchin sperm, as served at the Strange Food Exhibition in Beaufort, North Carolina. In the last words of River Phoenix, I'm gonna die, dude. And that's why God made the Ramones.